I'm Ellis Martin. Join me for a conversation with Thomas Abraham James, President, CEO, and co-founder of Pulsar Helium. Pulsar Helium is a publicly traded company listed on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol PLSR. Pulsar's portfolio consists of the Topaz Helium Project in Minnesota and the two new helium project in Greenland. Pulsar is the first mover in both locations with primary helium occurrences not associated with the production of hydrocarbons identified at each. Thomas, a geologist by trade, studied geology and earth sciences at the Australian National University. He's a fellow of the Australasian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, of the Geological Society of London, and the Society of Economic Geologists. He's a former managing director of Helium One Global and former CEO of Longland Resources. Tom, welcome to the program. It's fantastic to visit with you today.
Yeah, a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me, Ellis.
You're new to our audience, so if you don't mind, give us a broad overview of Pulsar Helium.
Certainly. So the name suggests a dedicated helium company, an explorer and developer of primary helium. The word primary is quite important because it's where helium is the primary economic driver for the project. Most helium in the world is a byproduct of hydrocarbon production. So more than 95% in fact. But for us, we focus on projects that are not associated with hydrocarbons and therefore whether the helium is higher concentration and also we're exposed to the full value of the helium price. As a company, we're public. We're listed in Canada on the TSX-V and we've got projects in the USA, in Minnesota and in the nation of Greenland.
Not too many people know that Greenland is actually a mining country, but I met one of their mining ministers in London a few years ago and they're quite interested in exploiting the resources that they have there.
They really are. They see it as an opportunity for diversification of their economy, that's for sure. And then also from a mineral exploration standpoint, and I'm a geologist by background, but I won't bore the audience with the geology too much. But really, Greenland has the potential more or less for every commodity that's out there. I personally have worked in Greenland for a number of years, and the project that we have on the East Coast is something that we developed in-house with a concept, and we proved that in 2021 and were granted the first ever helium exploration license in Greenland. So great support from the government, definitely.
So where are your end users with regard to Greenland? Is it both Europe and North America?
I would say that it's mostly going to be Europe, potential production there. The European Commission recently put helium on the critical raw material list earlier this year. And with that comes prioritizing of projects for helium, and then also where offtake agreements are more or less arranged by the European Commission as well. So I think that the Greenland is destined to end up in Europe.
Excellent. You certainly have a large market over there. I was recently visiting with a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Sistat, who is the managing director of Better in Our Backyard, and he's based in Duluth, Minnesota, very, very close to your Topaz project.
Yeah, it's a small world, isn't it? Knowing Ryan there, so it's wonderful. But you don't just hear about the company from me, but also from Ryan as well. So we are just down the road from Duluth, a city I really enjoy visiting. It's that rich mining history there, just with all of the large taconite iron ore mines there, the infrastructure that comes with it. So we've got a flagship project is about 2 hours drive north of Duluth. Support has been brilliant from the local community. I think if anything, it's quite the curiosity having a helium project in an area which is known for iron ore and also for nickel and copper. So something that's, I think, has taken the local community by surprise, but in a pleasant way.
What are the environmental impacts of something such as helium compared to, let's say, iron ore mining or anything else for that matter?
I think the biggest difference is the footprint. So for helium being a gas, it's not something that you're going to be digging a big hole, let's say. So there's not going to be any visual pollution. That'd be the first thing. With our project, it's extremely high grade as well. So 10.5% helium. So the amount of gas that you need to process in order to have a final product is less because of that high grade. So the old saying, grade is king. Certainly the case with helium as well. So you could have a couple of wells, a couple of boreholes there, and they would then feed into a processing facility. And for helium, it's much smaller, say, than a natural gas plant. If anything, it'd be a fraction of the size because you're not dealing with the volumes and also you're not dealing with the volatility either. Also in that location, most of the power is coming from hydro. So that's something that we're looking to access. and not being associated with hydrocarbon production, we've got a real opportunity here to slightly decarbonize a commodity, which is not something that many in the resource industry could say.
Well, let's talk about the medical uses for helium. You're not terribly far from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota.
Definitely right. So it's, there's been actually quite a lot. The National Hospital Association, the USA in particular, has been quite vocal with helium as the Federal Reserve, which is the USA's strategic deposit of helium, and keeping that for the medical industry. So its major use is in MRI scanners. In order for the magnet to superconduct, it's bathed in liquid helium and needs quite constant topping up, replenishing as well. So that's the major one. And then also used in some breathing gases as well in the medical industry.
You're a new company. I think it became public in August of this year. Is that correct?
August the 15th.
Is it too early to talk about potential offtake agreements?
Well, look, we only listed in August 15th. However, in the background, as a private company, we have existed for a few years. So in 2019, is it too early for offtakes? Well, it's probably never too early to at least have the discussion. In Minnesota, as you allude to there are significant end users of helium in semiconductor manufacturing, also helium distributing companies, then of course the medical as well. So we've introduced ourselves to most of these groups. I think that they're very pleasantly surprised that there is a project in Minnesota. So I don't think that once we get to the right point to then go in to start to take an offtake, I think that certainly with the helium shortage out there, and it's persisted now for about a decade, the appetite for the product is strong.
You've just expanded your land package a bit. Tom, are there any idea of the size of the reserves that may be there 200 kilometers outside of Duluth?
We'll have an answer for that in the fairly near future. The project, it has been drilled, and that's where the 10.5% helium came out. So what we're doing in December is re-drilling effectively. So we're doing what's called an appraisal well. So drilling within 30 feet of the discovery, we'll be putting down a second well there. That will have the additional testing equipment there. Apologies for my dog barking in the background. And that will give us an indication of the size of the reservoir. On top of that, we've just completed a seismic survey as well. That data will tie in nicely with the result of the drilling to better constrain the reservoir. But we think that we're onto something which is not just an isolated occurrence just surrounding the drill hole. We think it's something much larger, which is why that additional mineral rights is important. Minnesota is not known for oil and gas at all. In fact, if you read the playbook, it basically says don't go there. But the helium seems to be quite different. So trawling through all the drill records, what we found is that there's actually been quite a few gas counted when they were drilling for something else, and that gas has been non-combustible and not analyzed for helium. There is one other hole that has been analyzed for helium, and that's located roughly about 100 miles off to the south, and that came back with 2% helium, which is still incredibly high grade. So anything that's above 0.3% helium is deemed to be of economic interest. So to have 10.5% and then 100 miles away, 2%, we think that we're looking at very much a regional play here, which is why we were very happy with that announcement of additional mineral rights. It's not a one-trick pony.
Well, a regional play is certainly of interest to potential and current shareholders. And on that note, let's chat about the share structure of the company. It looks pretty good to me.
It's tight, that's for sure. So we have about 74 million shares on issue. A lot of those are in escrow. Management, myself and other directors and senior managers, we own 48% of the company. I guess to reinforce to the market our belief in what we've got here is that our shares are locked up quite an extended period. So it's minimum 18 months and then every 6 months thereafter, 20% release. So, our shares are not out of lockup for 3 years. It's an independent registry. So the people that we have in this moment in time do not have a vested interest in the helium product itself. They are financial investors. And then also for us, and you may tell from my accent, it's not terribly Minnesotan or Canadian. So a lot of our investor base is from abroad, from the UK and Australia. So it's all about now creating awareness in North America.
And I'm certainly glad to be able to help you do that. Tom, it's been a real pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to more conversations down the road. Thanks so much for joining me today on the program.
Likewise. Thank you very much for your time.
I've been speaking with Thomas Abraham James, President, CEO, and co-founder of Pulsar Helium. Pulsar Helium trades on the TSX Venture Exchange as PLSR. Find the company at pulsarhelium.com. I'm Ellis Martin.
Subscribe to the Ellis Martin newsletter. It's free. Go to ellismartinreport.com and fill out the quick and easy pop-up form.